Yo, welcome to Mama Dog Studios. We are live on location at our incredible soundstage that is indeed built for sound. We're in West Oakland, California, and I am joined by my incredible co-host, Courtney Payne.
Happy to be here. Yes, this is all part of a series called Live from Mama Dog Studios, which is all about community, building community in Oakland and highlighting, spotlighting artists, musicians, creatives, and change makers that are from the Bay and right here in our own backyard. We're very happy today to welcome a very exciting guest here to Mama Dog Studios, a writer, director, producer, actor, musician, poet, the list goes on. We'd like to welcome to the stage
Rafael Casal. What's up, gang?
What up?
Hey.
Welcome, bro. You made it,
What's
man.
good?
Thanks for joining us first and foremost. You got a lot of dope shit cracking, and you rep the Bay so well. So thank you for pulling up on us, man, making this possible.
I'm happy to be here. It's so comfortable.
Pretty in pink.
We pretty pink out here.
Pink is looking great on you, really highlighting, you know?
We're not gonna start this again.
Okay.
Y'all missed a whole conversation about how pink is not flattering to this skin tone, okay? But we're just gonna rock with it because, as Courtney said, reparations.
Reparations, it's the small things, it's the small things.
These were good jokes.
Man.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And, you know, how do you feel being back in town?
I feel great. I mean, I'm up here all the time to see my family, and I work in LA, but the heart is here. My niece is here. My parents are here. My sister's here. All my friends I grew up with are here. So I was like, I was pushing just coming here in my little rental Mazda, and I was mobbing on MLK, and I was like, I've done this a lot in my life. I've broken the speed limit a lot on the street.
And speaking about Oakland specifically, your art has reached worldwide status now. So how much of Oakland informs your voice and like what's leading the art and the creativity when you speak, at least when you speak about it like that, you're painting these vivid pictures.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot about that great thing that Pac said, where he was like, I got my game from Oakland. I think like that's really appropriate for, I think for most people in the Bay. So I think what's nice about what Oakland does once you start to move out of the Bay and out of California is, at least in the US, like there's a frame of reference of what that means. They've got some in. They've seen the E40 video, or they've now if they watched our show, or they've seen Sorry to Bother You, or they saw, or they saw it pop up in the beginning of Black Panther, like, whatever it is, they have a frame of reference.
And I feel like so much of your work, right, is grounded in Oakland. Like, you definitely make an effort to highlight this place.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when you watch Blindspotting, it's like the shirt. It's everywhere. It's the scene. It's the gear. It's the location.
Thankfully, Oakland also just merchandises well. There's not a lot of brands for Fremont,
Yeah.
It's not the same,
for sure.
But that's the great thing is, like, we really, we set out to make a show, a small story about the Bay, right? Like, it is impossible to make a Bay show. I think sometimes people get the misconception that we're trying to make a Bay show. It's like trying to make a New York show. Like, who's New York? You can make 1,000 movies about New York and still not hit some person's personal experience. We're gonna make one story about the Bay, and we'd already done this movie that took place in West Oakland, because that's where me and Davi were living when we wrote it. And so if we're gonna come back, we're like, well, that's the aesthetic of the film. That's how we're gonna transfer it over to a show and have it feel like the same thing. And the great thing about, all the different parts of the Bay, but specifically West Oakland, is West Oakland has an architectural specificity. You see it in San Leandro too. You see it in Berkeley. You see it a little bit in like El Cerrito and kind of going north a bit. But I think West Oakland really kind of has this abundance of like Victorian architecture. And so when you see it, you immediately know where you are. And then you can if you hear the BART train, you know how close you are to the line. And you don't think you can hear the train, but you can always hear the train, like the railroad trains going by. And so I think what was so fun about basing it here is we were like, where can we plant the show where like all the elements of film will play at once? So I can just like, I can open on a shot of just like somebody getting out of bed, but I can put the train out this way, and out the window I can put a Victorian roof, and everybody knows where we are.
Exactly where you're at.
Cool. So it's aesthetics. But it's also important in terms of the culture, right?
Yeah, and aesthetics is part of the culture, right? Like,
yeah.
The way people speak, the music that we hear, the people that we see on the street, the demeanor of people, all that comes into play. And so I think in a lot of ways, Oakland is this nice, beautiful representation of like all the complexities of the Bay. they all flow through Oakland. And so I think in a lot of ways, Oakland is a great shorthand where if like, you know, we'll be somebody else, somebody will be like, oh, I'm from the Bay. And yeah, they might be from Palo Alto. But like, Oakland has had a big effect on Palo Alto culture, just musically, like, you know, whatever. And so I think it just made a lot of sense to focus it in the town and then use that as a way to kind of talk about everywhere else.
So when you talk about like your North Star and your stories that you want to tell, what is kind of what you have that you keep at the forefront when you're
With
crafting?
Blindspotting or like in general?
Blindspotting.
Oh,
Yeah.
Blindspotting. There's a fun about the show that is inserting as much Bayness as possible. To me, it's like seasoning. You're just going through and you're just like, all right, let's make sure it's got all the right flavor on it that lets you know, what culture it's from. Let's put that everywhere. But the show is a family drama comedy about a family going through the effects of the prison industrial complex. That's what the show's about. It's not about sideshow culture. It's not about, how gooned up we are. It's not about how funny we are. It can be at times. It can be any one of those things. But the only thing it has to be is really sincere about telling that small story well. That's it. So we have to go to San Quentin. We have to deal with the parole system. We have to talk about mothers and sons and daughters, and we need to talk about mothers-in-law and having to live under one roof and the intersection between races and classes, because those things all play in this small story. And they also don't all play at once. You gotta be careful to not try to put them all in one episode, because then it's that's not how it goes. They also people don't sit around all day talking about race. Sometimes, we make jokes about it, but sometimes we make jokes about race as if we've already had the conversation because we're kind of all already on the same page to a certain degree. And that's what you want the show to be. So in season 1, we only really stopped one time to talk about colorism, really. And it's just because whether or not we were like, well, I'm white, Jasmine's biracial black. This little boy, how does he identify? How's he gonna walk through the world? How does Trish feel? How does Janelle feel? How does, Nancy feel? Everyone's got a slightly different opinion about it. All right, well, that's a conversation that might actually happen, so let's do it. But other than that, it's like this has to talk about how this group of people are going to deal with their common denominator, which is this person who's been locked up, and how that's gonna play out in their everyday lives. That's why we came up with the dancing in the show and the verse in the show. I think for some people who don't know how multidisciplinary artists are in the Bay, they don't see how those are all related, Cats will just be like, why the fuck they be dancing? Which is that's fine. You don't know a lot about dance. That's cool. Come on in, we're gonna put you up on game. But if you're a dancer, you know that movement is about articulating things that words can't. Cool, so check 1. 2, dance only happens in the show when people don't have the words for the weight of the system. That's it. So we're really, really intentional about when it happens. And if you watch the show, you start to get a sense of oh, she has to talk to her son she has to tell her son today that Miles is in prison. Oh, look, the dancers are here. It's all kind of all right, we're gonna help carry the weight with you. We're gonna try to articulate how turbulent the emotions are in this moment. And then verse, because cats out here are barred up, whether they're trying to be rappers or not. And so that's baked into the fabric of Bay culture too. It's people write. And so for me, it was I don't want Ashley to be a poet per se, or be pursuing poetry, because most cats who are good at it aren't even trying to make a career out of it. But I love the idea that she's somewhere writing down, trying to get it out, because she can't talk to anybody around her about what she's going through. The one person she would talk to is in prison behind bars. So she's writing these poems, and we were like, well, let's not literally show her writing and then do narration. She'll just look at camera and say what she wrote, And it's a little bit more symbolic, it's a little bit more cinematic, but that's the through line for the show. So all these things start to, in the writer's room, start to all play into, all right, how are we gonna articulate the wide range of emotions that this subject matter provokes, while still making a half-hour comedy for a major network?
So let's talk about Miles.
Sure.
Character is full of outrage. It's passionate.
Yeah.
Loyal, funny.
Yeah.
an artist. And I know that you wrote this
looking at?
character.
Yeah.
So you and David wrote this character, and then you get to act as this character.
These are all facts.
Yes, I know. Leading to my question. So, like, how much of that character is you? How much of yourself do you pour into that character?
It varies based on like whose lens the show is taking. I think in the movie, there's a version of like a younger, crazier me that I pull from for that. Just a little bit less concerned with the next day or consequences. I still think Miles is like rowdier than I ever was, but not by a lot. According to people who've watched the movie and knew me then, are like, no, that was it. I was like, I didn't think I was that bad. I always thought of Miles in the movie, like what it would be like if I didn't have a dad. Like if my pops didn't really care about me, that's probably what would have happened, is the way that he was angry. He's also, he does have a thing though that I really related to, or that I at least put into that character, which was like, he's a white dude in a very black and brown place, and so you can feel that he's like nervous. Like he feels like, somebody's like coming for me at all times. And so he's just like, he kind of feels like a pit bull that's been hit a lot. He's always like thinking that you're trying to say something that you're not. But the show is Ashley's version of Miles. You know, she knows a sweeter, kinder, considerate Miles who like can be that when he needs to be. But that's not who he is when he's with her, really. You know, and like, as much as we like to act like, oh, you be the same all the time, like you're just not. You know, the way you speak changes. When you talk to your mom or your grandmother versus your partner or your friends, like everything adjusts. And so we made an adjustment with Miles. We're like, okay, well, now it's her point of view, so.
Rafael, thank you, bro, for pulling up, sitting down with us, making time, and this the rollout, season 2 coming soon. Before you get out of here, just I think Court and I too, as creators and artists, really pull a lot from the journey, just the multidisciplinary aspect of it for sure. We wanted to know, I'm throwing you under the bus. We wanted to know, what has the growth process been in learning for you from, like you said, engineering, recording yourself, making the music, to all the way to showrunner now? How much have you learned, and what's the biggest difference from just trying to get it off the ground in the Bay to Hollywood now?
I think there's just so much that people don't know they don't know about making art. But you gotta look at it in the bite size, right? Like, if you don't know how to engineer, people will ask you about engineering, don't know how to ask you about engineering. You know, like you have no idea what it is to pull up a sound clip of one word in a track and listen to it 1,000 times on loop, and it doesn't get annoying to you because you're trying to get the pitch right, or get that pop out, or get the compression just right, and what it is to put in those hours. So then when you listen to music, you hear when somebody did it right or they did it wrong. That across medium is what being an artist is. And at a certain point, like, it's not, I can't explain showrunning to somebody who's never worked in TV. You just can't. Like, it's not just the tasks. It's the relationships with people. It's the artistic responsibility, the emotional responsibility, the time management, helping everybody sort of keep their North Star of what the goal is. I think we leave a lot out because the reality is to do it is so much harder than people understand. Making an album is so much harder than people understand, you know? And some of the job is pretending that's not true, you know, so that people can enjoy it and just have fun with it, you know? And knowing that the responsibility of that is to bring in new subscribers and increase an audience base and get some critical acclaim to raise the profile of a network. That's what they're buying. The rest is what you're selling, you know? And so when we're making stuff from like a thing like Blindspotting, where it's like really important to us, we're the only ones who really care about that, you know? They don't care that the show's about the Bay, really, you know? They just wanted a good show. They'll fill that slot with anybody, you know, that's good. We care about the Bay. You know, we're the ones fighting to come up here and shoot all the time. It's like it's an inarticulable amount of work and strategy and patience and constant learning and curiosity and failing over and over and over again. I think the further and further we get into the arts, the less and less we have peers to talk to about the journey. And so I think some of the desire to demystify the journey is selfish. I want people to know what this is gonna take. And also, like, appreciate the art for how crazy it is that it exists, you know? Like, I remember people when the season first came out, the first season came out, people were like, oh, they doing a show about the Bay. Hollywood gonna fuck it up. No, Hollywood, motherfucker. Hollywood, it's us. It's a bunch of people from here. You know, they don't care about getting Oakland right. I want the next cat, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 2 years from now, who does the crazy, foolish thing of going down to LA to try to bring something back, to not hit the same exact wall. And at least they can go, it's like Blindspotting, but less weird, you know? And that's fine, you know? It helps. Every little thing makes it a little bit easier. We go to the locations office in Oakland now, and they got a list of places we've already shot. We already fixed all the rules for those places. Somebody new comes in, they go, oh, we shot there. This is what you need. You know, it's these little incremental things. But I think for us going into the film industry, I don't think we knew it at the time, but it feels like just going west. It's just like, I don't know what's out there. You know, but we're gonna try to get to the water, and then we're gonna try to tell people, you know, what's out here.
Thank you.
Damn, thank you, bro.
Thank you for coming in. This was amazing. Thanks for the knowledge. We
Old
appreciate
golden
you so
retriever
much.
over there.
Yeah. We're not gonna put that on camera. But yeah, thank you so much for everything you do, for your work. We're so excited for season 2. And
Season 2.
thanks for coming in and pulling up to Mama Dog Studios.
Yeah. Listen to Grand Nationals.
Ooh, what? Can I get that snippet?
You heard it here first. You heard it here first.